Hola, hola everybody. This is Cristiana and I am creating this video here to share a little bit about my background, my experience, my journey with exercise and nutrition, and because I realize that a lot of people who I've connected with through my Hummingbird Plants page may not know a lot of this part of me, and it's been a huge part of me for quite a long time. And as I step back into the space of offering nutrition and exercise focused services, I want to make sure that you all are able to know a little bit about me so you're able to make an informed decision on whether it is a good fit to work with me with those things, because it is a very personal and very big decision to hire a coach or a trainer or talk to somebody about your fitness and exercise, your nutrition. These are very important things, and that relationship, that client, the relationship that I build with people is not just something that I take very lightly. So I do want to make sure that people are informed and understand who I am before they do choose to work with me. So we're on the same page, you know? um, and yeah, also sharing my why for why I do this and why I am here now doing this again. Because I did step away from it for a little while, and it's circled back and found its way back to me, and it'll always be part of me. But so how I got started in all of this was, you know, well, I mean, I was always active as a kid. I did t-ball. I played basketball where I was the center. I was this tall when I was a basketball player. I was a really good center and I could run really fast, but that's about it. I was terrible at basketball, terrible, but it was fun. And then middle school, I found cheerleading and was able to do that. I did that through middle school and all throughout high school. It was a lot of fun. I'm still dealing with a lot of those injuries from cheerleading. If you know, you know, it's tough. It's a tough sport. And for those that don't think it's a sport, no, it was hard. If you know, you know. Anyways, so then after high school, I got into running, and running was kind of my gateway into everything else. I love running. It'll always be something that's very important to me. And it's a way for me to connect with myself and the earth as well, and the elements, really, all of them. So then while I was running, you know, someone who I was dating at the time was like, "Oh yeah, you should go and, you know, look into to be a personal trainer." So I was like, "Oh, okay, that's cool." So I went and looked into a program through our community college here in New Mexico, and went through that, finished that, and it was supposed to prepare. It was to prepare you for the what is known to be the best certification at the moment back in 2010, or no, back in, I don't know, 2000 and whatever. So went through that, ended up getting certified back in 2010. Then started training at a gym, you know, and then yeah, started training at a gym, had clients there, did group classes, which are so much fun. And at some point, I will have group classes again because it is just so much fun to be able to like coach people and have fun doing it at the same time in like a super loud, like lively, like energetic place. It's my favorite thing. Those will happen soon. um, so yeah, as I, you know, I'm in that space and having fun with that, I definitely got caught up in all of the fitness industry toxicity bullshit. You know, followed meal plans and made lists of things. I, you know, would get through the magazines, the bodybuilding magazines would like clip out their diets and do those diets that the bodybuilders were doing. All that other shit had lists of like clean and dirty food, bad and good. Did like the whole meal plan stuff. Got caught up in the clean eating scene, which is garbage. I even bought books for clients that I was seeing, that I was coaching on clean eating, which is awful. Yeah, looking back now, I'm not happy that I did that, but I did. And so yeah, so I did that for a little while, and then I think, as a lot of people in the gym setting do, I got pulled into the direction of doing a fitness competition, because you're seeing all that stuff in the magazines, people are talking about it a lot, it's all over the place, and it's kind of like the rite of passage, I guess. It's not, please don't do them, but to each their own. So I ended up wanting to train for one of that, and in the meantime, with all of that, I found IIFYM, or like if it fits your macros. So I was eating very like tracking my calories, following a specific set of macronutrients, carbs, fats, protein type of thing. Found a coach who was in alignment with all of that. So I trained for a bodybuilding competition. And it was like the training for it was fun. The diet and all of that wasn't too hard with IIFYM. But I think what the hardest part for me was like the environment and the community. I'm using that loosely within the bodybuilding place, because it wasn't a community. It was nothing but people going at each other, and like I mean, for instance, I had somebody who I didn't know that knew that I was going to compete. That was trying to find me so they could like compare themselves to me, because I was going to compete against them or something. I don't know. It was a whole fucking mess. So that was the hardest part. It was like the toxicity within the community, within bodybuilding. And also the thing that was the hardest was comparing myself to everybody else, because at the end of the day, that's what bodybuilding is. You're getting judged based on how you look and how aesthetically pleasing you are compared to this person, and having to take pictures of myself all of the time, comparing like tiny little parts of me, being like, oh, I'm getting fat here, I'm not growing enough here, this, picking myself apart. And although I was absolutely shredded and in phenomenal shape, I was able to run. My cardio was done outside. I'm not on the treadmill. And I was in phenomenal shape. I didn't end up doing the bodybuilding competition because my coach at the time just said I didn't look the part of the fitness competitor that I wanted to, like, that I was going up against, to be a figure competitor. It was what was the class, I don't know, that I was going in. So I didn't end up doing it. But the good thing about it was that the training introduced me to powerlifting. And through that training, I absolutely fell in love with powerlifting. And that's kind of when things shifted more for me, because at that point it became less about how I looked and more about how I trained and what I lifted and my strength, not so much of looking apart, So it was fun. It became more about like lifting and being strong, and being a small individual. It was, I felt like I had something to prove, because people always are like, oh, you're so little, oh, you're weak, oh, you're this, just kind of viewing me as like a weak, small, meek person. So powerlifting for me was very empowering, to be like, watch me. And so I had something to prove, and I definitely did it. I was pretty good at powerlifting. I won a few overall competitions, and was really strong. It was a lot of fun. Still, that you have to be dedicated. You have to be disciplined in what you're doing. There is a weight aspect to it, because you do have a weight class that you would compete in, but it's not as aesthetic. So there was still a weight aspect to it, and weight hasn't been something that I have been very fixated on. But it kind of did get there at some point, because in order for me to be competitive in my class, you have to weigh a certain thing. So it did mess with me here and there, but I think at the end, when I stopped, I was able to kind of be like, like, my weight's going to be my weight. I'm not going to push myself anymore, because I'm going to hurt myself. But powerlifting, I've got nothing bad to say about it. I loved it. And I lifted all the way. I competed almost all the way through my undergrad. And up until the last year and a half of my undergrad, I had to step back from powerlifting, competing in powerlifting anyways, because it was the training, to be competitive, sometimes my sessions were like 2 hours, 3 hours on a really like the heavy day. And I had, I was taking a full load of school, so that wasn't very attainable. So took a step back from powerlifting, was still lifting, finished my undergrad, did all of that. So in 2020, the year that I was graduating, I was still lifting, not very consistently. I was doing some deadlifts and very ego driven. I should have been lifting the weight that I was. I shouldn't have even been deadlifting at all because I hadn't in a month, but the ego said otherwise. And, so I during that set of deadlifts, I ended up giving myself a hernia. So, and that was in 2020, or spring 2020. So got myself a hernia, went through the doctor. Like the whole process for me to actually get through everything took a few months, from like April until like June, July was when I got the results from my MRI, CT scan. And they also found a mass in my appendix through the CT scan. So, they sent me to a specialist. The specialist was like, yeah, we'll fix up the hernia and we'll go and take out your appendix just to see what's going on. I still had that surgery done. And whenever they did that, whenever they took it, they repaired the hernia, all of that was fine. And they took out my appendix, and through that biopsy, they found out that the mass in my appendix was cancerous. So the hernia itself saved me. So I had to deal kind of with that while recovering from surgery. So getting, the cancer diagnosis with that. Then going and talking to an oncologist, and figuring out, a plan of action. And I will say that my maestra Cici really held it down for me. She was my number one, like, person in that, and helping me to stay grounded and making good decisions, and helping me to make the decisions that were best for myself at the time. And I'm happy with the decisions that I made. And she helped me through it 1,000%. And so did my entire community. I had a lot of people behind me helping me through all of this stuff, because it was hard. And I wouldn't have been able to do it without the support of number one, my partner Will, with Maestra, and my community. I love you all. You know who you are. And so with that, the options for me with that type of cancer was on the second surgery. So it wasn't, they were saying that radiation and chemotherapy and everything else really was going to do more harm than good with this type of cancer. So, weighing my options, talking to the specialist, talking to the doctors, all that stuff, doing my own, like, searching to find out what was best. I made the decision to have the surgery. So I had my first surgery in September, and I ended up having my second surgery in November. So about like not even 2 months apart. So I remember trying to get back into lifting as soon as I could after the first surgery, because I know how important it is to have a strong structure going into surgery and being as healthy as I can so that I can heal well, and heal quickly. And so, exercising through all of that, trying to do what I could, going on walks, getting back into, body weight stuff and moving my body again in the way that felt right, which was very different and very hard, coming from being a competitive power lifter, and lifting heavy pretty much every single day, and pushing my body in ways that, like, it's crazy kind of thinking about it now, but instead kind of pushing myself in a different way, to being like, no, we can do this. Like, we can go for a walk. We can, do these small exercises. We can do this. It's pushing myself in a whole different way, very, very mentally. and also physically, because there was pain and I was recovering from surgery, and I knew that movement was going to help with my recovery, and it did. Um, so after I healed through that, there was a lot of tears and a lot of sadness and being like, shit, like I got to do this again. I got to do this again. I got to go through another surgery and recover again and go through this whole process again. So there was a lot of grieving. There was a lot of sadness. There was a lot of, but also like gratitude for being able to do it and have access to be able to do it. So what they ended up deciding to do was take part of my intestines, ascending colon, and part of the last part of my small intestine. So they took that out because with where the cancer was, it had spread to where my intestines were. And that's the part, where the appendix is, of where your intestines are. So to make sure that nothing spread, they took that out with the surrounding lymph nodes just to make sure. So had that done. And that experience was a whole different thing as well, because, I was also having surgery in the time of COVID. So there wasn't a lot of nurses at the hospital, and I checked in early that morning, didn't get into the bed, into my own bed to be checked on until 11 p.m. that evening. And the nurses did with the best that they could, with the amount. I know a lot of them were saying they were working for 24 hours, so it's not a knock on them. They did with the best that they could. So it was a pretty traumatic experience, from finishing up that surgery to getting my room and all of that. But there's been a lot of healing and a lot of reflecting, a lot of crying, a lot of grieving, a lot. This is also part of it. Sharing this story here and sharing all of this is healing for me, because I haven't talked about it much. And so I'm sharing this story also because I know there's other people out there who could get some hope and something from this, and me sharing my story. And it's important to share our stories, especially if there's hurt with them and they were hard, because sometimes we keep that in, and it's important to share those hard things with people sometimes, and sharing those stories with people who you trust. And I know that I have a beautiful community who I trust, and in sharing this, I know that it's going to find the right people and inspire and motivate or land in whatever beautiful way that it can, because that's what I share this with, is with love and wanting to, and my own healing, and hopefully the helping of healing of other people as well. So healed, went through that whole thing, had to heal through, that surgery, the second surgery, and still healing from that first surgery. So that really made me view exercise and nutrition as differently. It really did. It shifted things for me, because I wasn't that, that individual working in a gym, living in a gym, and my entire day is surrounded by exercise, and I wasn't that full-time student studying nutrition and coming home and lifting and doing all this stuff. I was recovering from 2 pretty big surgeries, and so it made me, and being so consistent with my exercise, I wasn't anymore. Things were different, and it still has been hard to find that consistency again. Exercise looked different for me, and looks different for me now, having that experience from recovering from surgery. And with that too, I've gained a lot of weight, and it's been interesting, but also very empowering to know that my weight and the amount of fat that I have in my body doesn't define who I am. I know who I am. Just because I'm fatter now, doesn't discount anything that I've done, that I am who I am. Doesn't any make me or you any less of anything having more fat on our bodies. It's just fat. My health markers are fine. I'm healthy. I'm recovering. I recovered very well, and I'm very grateful for that, for my health, even with this fat on my body. And, you know, my body has changed and transformed through all of those things. And it has offered me a whole different, a whole different way of seeing things, instead of being that trainer like, oh yeah, we're going to be focused on losing weight. We're going to be focused on like all these like very external type of things. Now kind of shifting it and understanding things differently and deeper and more. And I'm very grateful for those lessons, for this way of, like, a deeper way of seeing things. That's it. I got it. A deeper way of seeing things, because I was offered a new viewpoint, and it has been very beautiful to be able to see that. Although it's been hard as shit to get back to lifting and to doing all of that, it has been very beautiful to kind of come back into this and seeing it in a different way, especially for myself, because right now I am still rebuilding. I'm still trying to get back. I don't want to go back to where I was. Hopefully I'll compete in powerlifting again, but that's not my goal. My goal is to lift, to be strong and healthy and move well and to fucking feel good, because lifting makes me feel good. And just finding that consistency and exercising regularly and understanding that the way that I was exercising before, the way that I was moving before isn't going to be the same way that I'm moving now. Some days, it's a long walk. Sometimes it's 2 short walks. Some days I get a full, like, 2 hours, hour and a half in the gym lifting. It's sometimes it's a YouTube video. Sometimes it's like, I've shared those things with all of you. But the way that I exercise now doesn't look the same that it did, back in 2019, 2020, early 2020. And it's helped me broaden my view, and so that I can help other people in different ways within exercise and nutrition. It's been very humbling, very empowering and exciting to be able to kind of like reemerge in this way, and start lifting again, and not being so worried about having the freedom to not be so fixated on how I look. And it's freeing to be able, and of course I'm not going to say that I'm not at all worried about it. There's still times like shit, I had to like increase my bathing suit top by like 2 sizes, and that kind of like threw me for a loop, because I've always been very flat chested until, I gained weight, and all of a sudden I was like, well, what the hell do I do with these? So there has been, the ups and downs through all of this, and there's going to be more, because I'm still coming back. I'm still learning, this new body that I have, how I'm existing through exercise now. But it's made my passion for exercise and nutrition even stronger. It's far more stronger than it ever was. And because there's so much joy and release, and just there's so much good. I mean, exercise is such a beautiful form of preventative medicine, so is your nutrition, and there's so much nuance to it. It doesn't always have to be this or that way, this like, oh, be on a meal plan, eat this way, don't eat this, only eat this type of shit, and like never do cardio, only lift heavy weights, like, the gym is where you have to work out in order to be relevant. Like, nah. There's so much nuance, and that's where I live. Like, I live within the nuance of those 2 fields, and incorporating my spirituality into this is making it even more so nuanced, because things aren't going to be the same for 2 people. No 2 people's journeys are going to be the same with exercise and fitness, and I love that, because I learn from other people as well, and we can learn together, and it's exciting. And, to kind of bring things full circle, I was very active on the like fitness industry, back before like school before, when I was in school and doing all of that. I had a specific page for it. I was creating content for it, and it was very hard because existing in this nuanced space, which I have for a long time in a different way, but I still have, you know, existing in that way isn't very accepted because a lot of people within the fitness industry, within that community, see it as this or that. You have to do this. This is bad. This is good. Like, there's only one way. Like, oh, all of these things. And for me, it just doesn't exist that way. And it can't exist that way because, like, no two people are going to be the same. And so... and it also became very ego driven for me. I realized, like, the more and more that I went down, like, it was just a very I'm right, I'm the expert type of way that I was going about things, and it was gross. So I'm glad I stepped away when I did. I'm glad I kind of got pushed out of it when I did, because it offered me time to reflect on my why, on why I'm doing it, on why I'm loving it, on why I'm passionate about it, on why I want to share it with other people, on why I want to help to coach other people, and really reaffirmed my passion for nutrition and exercise, because I enter this space with a lot of nuance and curiosity, and wanting to empower people and wanting to educate people and offer, the knowledge and the experience and the background that I have in it to share with other people, because there's no use in me having all this, education, knowledge, wisdom, and doing nothing with it and keeping it for myself. That's nothing. I don't want to do that. I knew I had to share this. I just didn't know when it was going to happen, and now's the time. So here I am. And how I want to go about this in coaching other people and offering these services within nutrition and exercise is so that we're able to find harmony within ourselves, so that we're able to find what works best for ourselves, what feels best, what foods feel best, and what movement feels best, what you like, what you don't like. It's not me telling you what to do, it's me helping you to figure out what it is that works for you, what you like to do, and also in alignment with everything else that you have going on, because your movement and your nutrition aren't separate from the other parts of yourself. They're not separate from your spirit, they're not separate from your emotions, they're not separate from your mental body, they're not separate from everything. Everything is connected. And that's kind of how I've moved into this space now, and seeing how they're all interconnected, and I helping people to navigate that space as I navigate that space also, because it's not like I'm not up here now, like we're all in this stuff together. I know I'm going to learn things from people as I step back into this space, as they learn things from me, and I'm so ready. And I'm so excited to step back into this and offering services within exercise and nutrition. The majority of the services that I will be offering are, so everything will start with a plática, which is a heart-to-heart conversation or a consultation, just figuring out if we're going to be like vibing together, what's going on with you. You just tell me like why you want to work with me, what's going on. You just fill me in on your life pretty much, and I help you navigate all of that stuff, and then we step into whatever it is that we need to. And we'll be offering one-on-one coaching again, and possibly some group classes here, probably some online things, but I'm excited to get back. I'm excited to incorporate it with my spiritual practices, and the other services that I offered, like limpias, and I'm ready, and I hope you are too. And thank you for witnessing me in this way and listening. If you made it all the way to the end of this video, I'm very grateful for you. Thank you for being a part of my journey. Thank you for listening, for hearing me, for witnessing me. So yeah, contact me if you are ready or have any questions. Mucho amor.